That night was the most intense yet unforgettable night of my life. The house was quiet, bathed in the faint blue of the moonlight seeping through the curtains. I lay awake, my thoughts tangled between restlessness and a hollow ache I couldn't name. My husband, Thomas, had been away on a long business trip. 3 weeks gone, with 2 more to go. I had told everyone I was fine, but the truth was, silence has a way of getting under your skin. When the door creaked softly, I thought I had imagined it. But then, in the doorway, a shadow appeared. Ethan, my son, stood there, framed in the dim glow from the hallway. His voice was quiet, uncertain. "Mom, are you awake?" Something in his tone made my heart tighten. He wasn't the boy who used to wake me for a bad dream. His voice carried a weight, something unspoken. I sat up, pulling the blanket closer. "What's wrong?" He hesitated before stepping into the room. His movements were cautious, deliberate, the kind of steps people take when they're afraid of breaking something fragile. "I couldn't sleep," he said finally. "I've been thinking about a lot of things." I nodded, motioning for him to sit down. "Tell me." At first, he stayed by the doorway, like he wasn't sure he was allowed closer. Then, slowly, he crossed the room and sat at the edge of the bed. His hands were clasped tightly in his lap, his shoulders tense. "Everything feels different lately," he said. "I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I don't fit anywhere." The words stung more than I expected. Ethan had always been steady, grounded. To hear him sound lost made something inside me twist. "You're growing," I said softly. "Sometimes change feels like loss, but it isn't." He nodded, but his eyes stayed fixed on the floor. Then, after a long pause, he looked up, and the rawness in his gaze caught me completely off guard. "It's more than that," he whispered. "It's about you." The air in the room thickened. My breath caught. "Me?" He nodded slowly. "You're the only person who makes me feel safe. Like I can be myself. But sometimes I don't know if that's okay. Sometimes I feel things I don't understand." The honesty in his words hit me harder than I could have imagined. There was no malice, no boundary crossed. Just confusion, affection, and pain mixed together. I wanted to say something comforting, something wise, but all that came out was a whisper. "Ethan, it's okay to feel lost." He dropped his gaze again, his hands trembling slightly. "I'm scared," he admitted, "of what this means, of what's happening inside me." I reached out and touched his arm gently. "You're not broken," I said. "You're human. Feelings don't always make sense. That doesn't mean they define who you are." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us was heavy, but not cruel, like standing at the edge of something vast, unsure whether to move forward or turn away. "Do you want to stay here tonight?" I asked softly. "You don't have to be alone with your thoughts." He nodded, his shoulders easing a little. As he lay beside me, I felt his breathing steady. And though I told myself this was comfort, a mother's embrace for her child, part of me knew it was something deeper, the beginning of a reckoning neither of us was ready to face. The morning light didn't bring peace. It only revealed the heaviness that the night had left behind. I woke before Ethan, his breathing slow and even beside me. For a brief moment, I watched him, my son, yet no longer a boy, and a wave of confusion washed through me. What had happened between us wasn't physical, but something invisible had shifted, and I couldn't name it. I slipped out of bed quietly, wrapping a robe around myself. The mirror caught my reflection. Tired eyes, hair tangled, a face that looked far older than it had yesterday. The woman looking back at me didn't seem like me at all. In the kitchen, I tried to lose myself in routine. Coffee brewing, eggs cracking, the sound of toast popping up. It was the kind of morning rhythm I used to love, the one that made the house feel alive. But now, each sound echoed against the silence between us. Ethan appeared a few minutes later, his hair messy, his eyes shadowed. "Morning," he said, voice low. "Morning," I replied, forcing a small smile. He sat at the table, and I could feel his gaze on me even as I turned away to pour the coffee. I didn't want him to see my trembling hands. "Did you sleep?" I asked. He nodded, though his voice betrayed him. "A little. You?" "Barely." We both knew why. The words from the night before hung in the air like fog. The truth he'd spoken, his confusion, his affection, replayed in my mind with painful clarity. "I meant what I said," he murmured suddenly. I froze. "Ethan." He lifted his eyes to mine, and I saw the same raw honesty there that I'd seen last night. "You think I don't know it's wrong to feel this way?" he said. "I do. I just can't turn it off." My heart clenched. "You're not supposed to turn it off. You're supposed to understand it. Where it comes from. You've been lonely, I've been distant. Maybe that's what this is. Confusion born out of silence." He leaned forward, his tone desperate. "But what if it's more than that? What if it's real?" "Ethan, love doesn't always mean what we think it does," I said quietly. "Sometimes we mistake need for love and closeness for belonging. That's what this is. A search for connection, not something to act on." He dropped his gaze again, jaw tightening. "You think I don't know that? You think I want this?" His voice broke on the last word. I don't know how to stop feeling." I took a deep breath and reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. "You don't stop feeling," I said softly. "You grow through it. You let time change it." For a long moment, we sat in silence, the only sound the faint hum of the refrigerator. I wanted to tell him that I understood more than he realized, that loneliness can twist love into shapes that don't belong. But instead, I said, "We'll be okay. We just have to keep the line clear between comfort and confusion." He nodded slowly, though I could see in his eyes that understanding didn't make it any easier. That night, when we crossed paths again in the hallway, there was no conversation, only a glance that lasted too long, and a silence that said everything neither of us dared to speak. And for the first time in years, I was afraid of love. Not because it hurt, but because it had started to blur the line between right and wrong. The following days unfolded like walking through fog. Familiar shapes, familiar sounds, but nothing clear. I went through the motions of daily life, answering emails, watering the plants, calling Thomas when I could. He spoke about meetings and flights, never once asking how I was holding up. It was easier that way. His absence left a void, and Ethan had stepped into it without either of us meaning to. One evening, I came home later than usual. The house was dim, the air carrying the scent of rain. Ethan was sitting on the couch, a book open in his lap, though he wasn't reading. He looked up as I entered, and for a long moment, we simply stared at each other. Two people connected by something we couldn't name, terrified of what it might mean. "You didn't answer my messages," he said quietly. "I needed space," I replied. "We both did." He nodded, but I could see the disappointment flicker across his face. "I get it," he murmured. "But it doesn't make it easier." I set my bag down and sat across from him. "Ethan, what happened between us? even the things we never said out loud. They matter, but they don't define who we are. He frowned, confusion tightening his expression. Then what are we supposed to do? Pretend none of it happened? No, I said softly, but we have to understand it for what it was. You reached out because you were lost, and I let my loneliness answer instead of my judgment. He leaned forward, his eyes searching mine. So you do feel it too. My breath caught. I feel a lot of things, I admitted. But feeling something doesn't mean acting on it. Love, sometimes it's just misplaced need wearing the wrong name. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the faint patter of rain against the windows. Then Ethan stood, pacing slowly across the room. I wish things were simpler, he said, that we could go back to before I said anything. I smiled faintly, though my eyes stung. You can't undo truth, Ethan, but you can decide what to do with it. He stopped beside me, his shoulders tense, his voice low. So what do I do now? Live, I said. Grow. Learn to love someone who can love you back without breaking you in the process. The words hung heavy in the air. He nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his expression. For the first time in weeks, the tension between us began to soften, replaced by something quieter. Forgiveness. Later that night, I stood in the doorway of his room. He was already asleep, his face calm, peaceful, almost like the boy he used to be. I closed the door halfway and leaned against the frame, exhaling a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The heart doesn't erase what it's felt. It only learns to carry it differently. But maybe that was enough. Maybe love, in its purest form, was learning when to stop before it destroys what matters most. As I turned off the lights and walked to my own room, I whispered a silent promise. To choose clarity over comfort, and to let the silence between us become healing instead of temptation. And somewhere deep inside, I hoped that one day he would understand that love doesn't have to be claimed to be real. Sometimes it just has to be released.